And good morning to everybody, and I'm really glad to be here. And I'm one of those people that needed that explanation about what iCAN New York, iCAN-Global is and its relationship to NYSERDA. I asked that to Les this morning. I was like, tell me again how the relationship works. In a nutshell, that's really largely what I do, is help navigate what are the multiple ways that NYSERDA works with throughout the state with multiple audiences in multiple sectors. So, Les, do I have control for flipping slides here?
Oh, sure, you want to.
I do, I know. Give me the whirl.
Make sure you know what, please? It's the bottom arrow, and I'm going to go over there and control the menu.
So I'll just press the button. It'll make me feel better about pushing the button.
Press the button, and I'll operate.
So this is good, though, that I can get to reduce my apologies a little bit less at the start of this presentation. Since this is the New York audience, I'm just going to apologize to the global audience because I am a New Yorker and this is a New York program. So let's focus on what's going on here in New York for a little bit. But there are lessons, and this is a good case study for anyone listening who's not from New York. All right, so I am. I'll talk a little bit. Les did a nice introduction about what NYSERDA is, and I'll just do one slide on that really quickly so you can see it spelled out. And then I'm going to talk about NYSERDA programs. This is going to be pretty concise. This is really an overview and an exposure, which I've found again and again is very important. I apologize if it's a little dry and it's material you can already find on the website, but I think a guided tour and a highlight about some things that exist, since there are a lot of opportunities that keep on changing and updating at NYSERDA. So I thought for this audience, I'd want to focus on some programs that are there and can be very valuable. And number two, everyone says this at the start of a presentation. I'd like this to be a discussion. I'd really like it to be more like Parliament, where you guys yell at me and say, that program is crap, or because I want to learn about these programs. And I want to hear more of that when at the appropriate times. That is completely inappropriate. So let's jump in. So NYSERDA is a New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. It's a public benefit corporation. We, New Yorkers, through their utility bills, for the majority, pay for NYSERDA programs. Its mission has been to reduce petroleum consumption since the early 70s, and they've had an evolving mission. It's changed. For decades now, they've been involved in renewable energy and energy efficiency, but even more recently, under Governor Cuomo, they've gotten into the sustainability game, which has addressed many criticisms that have been out there that they were looking too focused in too siloed way. So I'll talk about that too, how they've branched out into looking at sustainability and resiliency and incorporating that into the other strategies. As I said, it's funded by ratepayers through our utility bills for the most part, though there are other funding sources. And it's important to know that there are a significant number of NYSERDA program staff, but NYSERDA is largely populated, and a lot of its programs are managed or run by contractors, of which I am one. And so next slide, please, Les. Hey, no talking in the audience. So I'm with Courtney Strong, Inc., which is a outreach specialist firm with a very technical focus. And I'll explain the program that we're under on the next slide very quickly. But we do marketing and outreach, but we have a very strong technical focus. Courtney Strong, who I worked with, was a member of the Solar Energy Consortium, of TSEC, was helping to run that. So we've worked with NYSERDA for over a decade now. And have quite a bit of experience in doing outreach and helping folks navigate NYSERDA programs. Next slide, please. So the program that I am a contractor to is the EDGE program. It's a program that's new to NYSERDA this year. It was started about mid-year, late spring. And it is the EDGE program, or the Economic Development Growth Extension Program. And this is an evolution of NYSERDA into the recognition that they needed help in spending their millions of dollars that they've accumulated, and they were not doing it to the degree that they wanted to, and they were not measuring it as effectively as they should have. And so this program is very metrics focused, very partner based, and very much about getting the people who need the money connected to the money. So what we do is, and my focus is the Mid-Hudson. I have the six counties of the Mid-Hudson in my territory. A seventh county of the Mid-Hudson, the quote-unquote official Mid-Hudson territory by some border maps, is Westchester, and a counterpart of mine, also with Courtney Strong, Inc., Melissa Lopez, handles Westchester. So we are there as outreach and support for all of NYSERDA programs, and there are many, many programs. I'll talk about that in a second. We are there to match projects with funding, but we are partnering. We are a resource, and they are a resource to us with the Regional Economic Development Council. So since 2011, the state was broken up into 10 regions, Each of those 10 regions created an economic development strategy plan that was based on local strengths and weaknesses. And and as a second, as a 1-2 punch, as a 2-punch to the 1-2 punch, they created sustainability plans. And we are there to assist achievement of those goals of the economic development councils, which job growth, business growth, economic development are primary goals of those of the organizations. And we do this through partnerships, identifying programs, doing a lot of hand-holding through programs with a focus on energy programs. But there are programs that are focused on job creation, business growth, and entrepreneurship, workforce development. And we do this directly through working with partners and also through direct assistance in navigating the consolidated funding application, which is a tool that's been in New York State also since 2011 under Governor Cuomo, and I'll talk about that in one slide. So next slide, please. So this is the homepage of NYSERDA. When you go to NYSERDA, this is what you look at. And I thought it's worth just pointing out that the tabs across the upper left there, and you see one of them is circled. The tab that's circled is for the energy and renewable energy programs. That's the majority of where I spend my time, where I have spent my time in conversation and working with folks that need help in getting to find support for doing work in their facilities, whether it be energy efficiency, in many cases renewable energy, it's new construction, it's existing facilities. But this has been the majority of my work, but you can see there are other tabs up there, and we're going to focus on the second tab for the most part in this presentation. But let me give you one slide on what those energy programs are about. So next slide. So just an overview, without going into too much detail, or really any detail on the programs that are available under energy efficiency and renewable energy. As a general offer, the energy efficiency programs, there is support for energy analysis, the technical support and financial support for doing energy analysis depending on the clients and sector that you're in. There are incentives for equipment, little extra incentives to get you to go above and beyond what you might normally do, to go above standards as well. There's a lot of interesting financing, and this is a very, if you haven't caught wind of this, pay attention. And matter of fact, we are organizing a conference that's going to take place in March, and I'll have a slide on this at the end. That's focused just on financing strategies for energy efficiency and renewable energy, because this is the new world. This is the direction that things are moving in, have been moving in, and there's some significant progress in this area. Look to Connecticut as a model of what's coming to New York. There you might have heard talk of the Green Bank, but we'll talk about this in a bit. And also, associated with these programs, there is sustainability planning and support, and I'll talk about this again. But I just put a quick list of the programs where these energy analysis, incentives, and financing opportunities are available. The existing facilities program, the new construction program, there's a focus on small businesses, audits that they can access and financing, as well as the flexible technical analysis program for larger industrial clients. So let me just leave off on this last point where I was talking about the sustainability planning and support and highlight a new program that I think should be of interest to you folks. Next slide. So this is a snippet from an announcement, a news announcement that's available on the NYSERDA website, and this is announcing the Cleaner, Greener Communities program. And this is, in a nutshell, a couple of years ago, Governor Cuomo laid aside $100 million to support sustainability and resiliency planning in the state. Much of this capital focused. And what this means is that in 2013, it was the first year where $30 million of that $100 million was designated for access through the Cleaner, Greener Communities program for sustainability projects. $25 million specifically for capital and planning projects. They're in the evaluation round. This offer closed on August 12th of 2013, the first of the 3 years. And they're right now evaluating the applications. Creative, outside the box, not typical silo programs that NYSERDA has seen before. And there's the bevy of opportunities that I'd be happy. I guess an upshot of this conversation is that please contact me for conversations. I'm paid, I'm a free resource to explore opportunities to link with NYSERDA. This would be a great topic of conversation, to have a conversation about what has taken place, what has been proposed in the Hudson Valley, what is likely to be funded, and what's happening statewide. So I bring this up, even though it closed in August of 2013 and the new announcement hasn't been announced yet. In 2014 and 2015, we're going to see, I'm sorry, next slide please, Les. Technical difficulties. So this is the specifics. It's PON 2721. It's supporting sustainable communities and planning. I mentioned category 3 of this is where the 25 million is allotted, and I put up the years 2014 and 2015. So look for this as an opportunity for, really, I guess the one caveat of what this applies to. It's for programs, it's for strategies that are not covered by other NYSERDA programs, which is not an easy thing to figure out because there are many, many programs, and there are some programs that existed and have gone away. For example, geothermal was a strategy where there was a specific NYSERDA support program where you can get an incentive for geothermal installation. That has gone away. So I knew of at least 2 applications to the Cleaner, Greener Communities program for that financing pool for geothermal, and that was a good choice because there was no longer any other support for geothermal. So those customers are hoping to derive some funding to support their geothermal installation. Next slide, please. Just thought it was important to point out this. This is the tool to access most of NYSERDA programs, especially in the energy efficiency, renewable energy sphere. Something called the Consolidated Funding Application, and this was under Governor Cuomo as well. It was created to streamline government. 12 agencies. You can access the funding sources, funding pools for 12 agencies through one online, quote-unquote, smart tool application, where you go in with your project description, and by answering a series of questions, your one application is distributed to where it should go, to those agencies that have relevancy for what you're looking to do. Instead of what it used to be is you'd have to have context with those separate agencies where your project might fit, have a conversation, do exploration, submit a paper application. This has been in place. We're in the 3rd year. That the round of funding was August of 2013 that closed. So it has gotten better and better every year. And the resources, I circle in the lower right corner 4 boxes, which are resources available to help you figure out what funding pools are there and how to navigate the application. They've gotten better and better each year. I'd say there's 100% improvement in the lower left. The CFA application guide is so much more user-friendly now. In the years previous, I wouldn't have directed anyone to use it. But now there are some good resources, but still, to navigate a good, successful CFA for a competitive program, and the Cleaner, Greener Communities program is a competitive program. Most of NYSERDA programs are not competitive. The ones that, when we talk about entrepreneurship, they typically are, it's kind of a different space, somewhat competitive, but they're not through the CFA. But it's good to know how to use the CFA, and it's good to know about the resources available because there are cross-link opportunities, and you might benefit from more than one pool of money for a project that you're interested or business you're interested in supporting. The link to the application itself is circled in the middle of that slide. It's just, so you can't say you've never seen this. The total pool of money that's available each year was about $750 million across those 12 agencies, so a significant amount of money. And the image on the lower left just shows how it was broken out in 2011 across the 10 regions. The Mid-Hudson in gray, there were 61 projects that were awarded, about $67 million. Next slide, please, Les. So now, getting away from energy and renewable energy programs towards the energy, innovation, and business development. And there are a number of different opportunities in here, and this is where I want that parliamentary back and forth where you guys say, that's crap, that program. Because I'm learning about these programs, and it's an area that they really want to support, and I want to learn more about. And to be quite honest, I just haven't had as much experience working with folks, though I've been looking. There's a few folks I've had some initial conversations with through this group, which has been great. So I think you guys are a significant resource for helping me learn about this, and basically using that phrase, helping me to help you to navigate to the space. Because what I can do is, hopefully, maybe, you probably have better access to some folks within NYSERDA or within different groups associated with NYSERDA that can be helpful, but in some cases I might be able to accelerate the conversation or to get you in touch with somebody you didn't realize could be a resource. So what are the specific programs? On the left, I've circled the menu items, the table of contents for programs that are available. And I'm going to talk about just a couple of these on one slide, or just a few of these. But there are programs focused on economic development, especially emerging technologies, and accelerated commercialization programs, an interesting one, and a few others, including R&D. So jumping to the next slide, please, Les. So innovation and business development. This is a graphic that they've been using associated with the Innovation and Business Development Program, and it just represents the different facets that they've recognized are essential components of helping businesses grow and succeed, especially in the clean tech space. And NYSERDA has an offer or has had an offer. Some of these have been proposed, and I'm curious to see where they've gone in each of the areas that are identified on that graphic. Going from the very beginning on the left, from discovery to more launching phase of a business. Looking down the y-axis, there's programs that are focused on capital, on talent development, and then all the way down to networking. At the bottom of the slide, I put up a link to the Clean Tech New York Connect website, which was beta this year. I think it might still be in a beta phase, but it is a networking site for folks in the clean tech industry. And I'm curious has anyone been to this site? Has anyone used this site? By show of hands. Yeah, well, there we go. That's what I'm here for. So yeah, I'm curious to check it out. This is something they're really trying to foster, and to make it a resource for them. I think it's cross purposes with what iCAN is trying to do as well, and I think they can work in concert. So let's move on to the next slide. So the entrepreneurial support programs. There's a number of entrepreneurial support programs that NYSERDA has in place throughout the state. Interestingly, under PON 2730, there was a Clean Tech Executives Program where they were looking to support the transition of experienced executives into the clean tech field in a catalyst way. They put $400,000 into this first program to help make the transition, make resources available, identify companies after giving them a base education where those executives could move into. And again, this is one of those areas where they're trying to seed something to see if this could continue working. The PON closed in June of 2013, so it's fairly relevant where they're doing this offer, so it's something to be aware of. And now we open it up for parliamentary comments. Does anyone have an experience with this entrepreneurship program? The idea is to connect those early stage executives to opportunities, so this is something to be aware of. And again, they wanted this to be launched and become self-sustaining in its way, but it's something to be aware of. There's also the Entrepreneurship in Residence program that's based out of Rochester. Yes, Oliver?
And how connected is that kind of executive residence program with angel financing, VC groups, and so forth? Because it's disconnected, it seems like you're training someone to go into something where there's not.
It seems to be fairly well connected with the folks that are involved as the resources to them. It's connected also to the incubator programs, which have some very impressive folks that are in that community as well. So it's again, it's a fostering. It's a bit of a chicken and egg, but they're beginning with it seems from the presentation I've seen with a fairly good base of resources to have that conversation. So there's other mentoring programs, and this is where I had that conversation with Les just to confirm where I can fit within the sphere. But they're the official 6 programs around the state where they're doing incubators where folks are actually in residence, learning and getting connected to help grow their businesses. And then external programs through different universities and where they have support programs that help these conversations take place. Let's go to the next slide, please, Les.
Next slide.
Yep, so this is the Emerging Technologies and Accelerate Commercialization Program. This is an example of a program where they're really trying to help foster development of technology in New York that is commercially available but underutilized in New York. And there's 3 different, basically, components by which they're trying to support these programs. There's demonstration project support, performance measurement and verification, where there's support to actually to bring the technology here, to put it through a testing phase and verify that it has value. And showcase project, and they also to showcase projects after they've been demonstrated through a performance measurement program. I put up that the way they define these technologies, there's still a bias towards energy and still towards facility space, building space. So they're looking for commercially available but underutilized within New York State. And when they define the strategies or the technologies they're looking for, and it's not just technologies, they're looking for energy efficiency or load reducing technologies or strategies. And for example, I know there's a gentleman I'm trying to help connect to 3 companies to participate under this PON, under this program, where he's looking to use a behavioral management strategy to help businesses opportunize on some money laying on the ground, basically, and inefficiencies in the way they're operating. So it's not just specifically technologies, but there is great opportunity for technologies. Next slide. On the R&D front, again, I've circled the table of contents instead of listing it all on the slide, but this is something you can navigate to just to see what areas that they're currently supporting through R&D. They have a great resource on the site as well. Where is it? If you go to the R&D, if you go back to the Innovation and Business Development section of the slide, you can click on an R&D search where you can identify all the projects that NYSERDA is currently supporting in R&D. But the general topics that they cover currently are research, biomimicry, buildings research and development, on-site power generation, smart grids, advanced clean power and transportation. You can see that they're all up there, but these are their current focus areas. But this is one of those areas where you're not going through a formal application program like the consolidated funding application. Based on my experience and conversations and helping a couple of people into this and talking to the folks on the NYSERDA side, this is very much a conversation to have with the program folks at NYSERDA. They have some designated areas, they have some strengths, and some of these programs are based on experience of what's been brought to their attention. Not so much, they do set a priority of what they want to support and where they feel the need lies. But there are cases where someone has a very strong R&D program that they need to partner with, and NYSERDA rallies the forces to do this. So there's a very active R&D community, and R&D is what NYSERDA has been doing for decades since its beginning. So there's definitely some very strong history here. Just an example on the next slide of the R&D buildings program. These are two active PONs, or in NYSERDA speak, if you don't know PON, if you're gonna work with NYSERDA, you have to understand what a PON is. It's Program Opportunity Notice, and basically just means a funding source. So two current programs, or PONs, are one for advanced buildings, another for innovations in data centers and information technology and communication. And there's some just details about what they're looking for and who their targeted audiences are for these programs. Just to give you a flavor of what's out there. To get more of a flavor, next slide please, there are case studies. NYSERDA has a number of great case studies for all of their programs, including for R&D. If you go into the NYSERDA homepage, look under publications, and then look under case studies, you can find for the different programs. And here's just a couple of examples from the R&D world. One example from Kintz Plastics, which is from upstate New York. But again, the case studies topics are on the left of the slide, just to give you a sense of what they've currently published. Are there any questions at this point in time? Let me jump to the next. Can you jump to the next slide? So this is where I'm turning it over. That's my presentation. Just wanted to expose you to some opportunities that exist at NYSERDA. But I'm curious, again, on that sense of back and forth, if there's any feedback, any experience with NYSERDA programs. Just if you've worked with NYSERDA, let me see by show of hands. So about I'd say about 5% of the audience here. Two folks have raised their hands. If you have interest in working with NYSERDA, let's have a conversation. That's really the takeaway from this point. Do you have a question?
Yeah, just had a question on, I did apply to a PON, and then I was just wondering, I didn't get one of the grants, but is there, I haven't gone back to check, but is there a way to talk with NYSERDA to get feedback on, good and bad, how can you improve it?
Yeah, not easily, but through us, yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's something that we can accelerate and can be very helpful. Because again, there is a staff at NYSERDA, but as I guess most people these days, they are quite overwhelmed, and if they have best intentions, but we can accelerate those kind of conversations for happening, and we can get some quick and easy feedback because we're in constant flow of conversation with them. So,
in some ways, as an entrepreneur, I look at it's overwhelming all the different things they're trying to do, and it's almost hard to see. You have a limited amount of time. Where do you focus your energy? Because it is quite distracting to go through a big approval process and so forth.
Yeah, and I guess we're as near as it gets to customer support for an individual account. I mean, that's what this program is about. Because and I come from the user perspective. I mean, I didn't give my history, but prior to working with NYSERDA as an outreach contractor with Courtney Strong, I was at Cushman & Wakefield. I was a director of sustainability, and we had 900 million square feet of property, 300 million in the U.S. Majority 70 million in New York City alone, and I was trying to use NYSERDA programs and had the same experience. So that, how do you navigate this? How do you get through the process? I credit them with this program for creating this program. I have two counterparts I work with in the Mid-Hudson. I have over 25 counterparts throughout the state. So if your program is somewhere else in the state, I can connect you to someone who's doing the same role that I am for that conversation. Next slide, just quickly. So these are some upcoming events that we're doing, continuing with the idea of how to navigate and learn about what NYSERDA is doing. We created a webinar series of our own. We're having one on the 19th that's targeted at municipal audiences, but we're going to do one a month. And it's basically a did you know? And it's self-educating for us too. As I assemble these webinars, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So we're grouping them by topic or by audience. For example, on the 19th of November, we're looking at municipal audiences, and just because they have questions about what they can and can't do, and it's changed. But then we're digging into some very specific technology. Again, there'll be a deeper dive into what I've gone over today, just an overview of entrepreneurship and what's available in the R&D space in January. And they're lunchtime, 1 hour long. But then again, I mentioned the conference that we're organizing for March. That's focused just on financing strategies. And this is a very much evolving world. And this is outside of NYSERDA as well. There's a lot happening outside of NYSERDA. For example, with PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, that is something that would be extremely interesting because it's going to really facilitate investment in this area. And last slide. And here's my contact information and my counterparts.